So I just saw the premiere of Terra, and I know I'm a few days late, but gonna try to give my thoughts on it. So Terra, I typically would not cover the show, but since Deadliest Warrior is done with season 3, I figure I need a new TV show to do weekly episode reviews of it, and since yeah, I was gonna go to Game of Thrones, but that's like, kind of old, so I don't think that's gonna be good. So, anyways, Terra Nova, the first 2 episodes. It's technically one episode, but it's 2 hours long, and Wikipedia considers it a two-part episode. So, yeah, I'm gonna call this episode 1 and 2. All right. So, Terra Nova Genesis. What can I say? The basic plot of the show is it follows that the storyline that we messed up the Earth so bad that in the future that we need to look to other sources of stuff. Like people have seen this like in Pandorum, Lost in Space, Pandorum, Lost in Space. There's some other movies, but the idea of a post-apocalyptic Earth, that's not new. And this one's actually, but the idea here is kind of original, that in that people have already done the thing where let's go to another Earth-like planet. That's already been done, but this one's different. This one is it might sound kind of silly, like a B movie type thing, but it's actually kind of cool at the same time. They've somehow built a time machine. It's not explained, but you don't really need explanation here. They built a time machine, and they send people back. They send people through it in colonies, all the way back to like the Jurassic period, or like far back in time, like Cretaceous. I don't know, but it's a time when dinosaurs are around. So like they got you know you can argue against this kind of like plot. Like, I mean, it's kind of cool, but at the same time it opens up a lot of plot holes. Like, the biggest plot hole that I noticed was, even if they make the colony and it's successful, doesn't their colony like fail regardless, because the mass extinction, of the dinosaurs, wouldn't it like destroy the colony? So yeah, so the thing where they're saying like people should have a new um a re a do-over, like another chance to do better. It kind of like deletes that purpose when you think about it like that. And also there's the thing where people get sent back in time, and then they have their own timeline which is progressing forward, and that should have already messed up the timeline. So it would have messed up the future unless it was predestined that they would send people back in time. Blah. But you can think of it like in the Terminator kind of sense. But the problem that I noticed was, if they sent people back in time to this certain year, and then they kept sending people time as the years progress, like, what if they sent another group back into the earlier time? Doesn't that destroy like any progress then? I don't know. Any sort of fiction involving time travel is confusing. So, um, but the time traveling, it actually doesn't really play a huge part in the show, actually, because once they're in the jungle, you're pretty much the story's pretty much about them surviving the jungle now. Like, there's still references to the time travel, but mainly the story's about them trying to live this new world in Terra Nova, the name of the colony. Outside of that, well, when we're at the colony thing, um, this episode's it's really just for like setting up for future storylines, because um, there's a lot of characters introduced, and a lot of um, a lot of what's the word? They get their character out as like quickly as possible. Like, they quickly establish the dad as like he's the central figure. Like, he wants to make sure his family's safe, and in the storyline in the future there's like China laws because you can't have more than 2 kids. So in this, he's considered like sort of a criminal amongst like the people of Terra Nova because he did this. And there's the mom character who's presented as this loving person, but she's also trying to. She's also like the. She's kind of like the dad character, but she's more like accepted in Terra Nova because she doesn't have like a criminal history. And then there's the 3 kids because they actually got the third kid, the kid that was taken away, because they broke the no more than 2 child law. And the 3 kids, the 3 kids, they're not very original. I mean, like we have the son who's like a rebel. He hates the dad for going to jail and stuff. Like stereotypical. You have the daughter who's kind of awkward, but she's really smart too. But where have you heard that before? Ironically, that's the same character. That's the same character of that girl in Jurassic Park, which ironically was directed by Steven Spielberg, who was behind Terra Nova. And this movie's about dinosaurs, so there's too many Jurassic Park references I can make in this. So, um, we have okay, there we have the daughter, the son, and we have the youngest daughter who as the youngest, her character is basically there for her to be like amazed, all right? Because the older people they don't really have the same sense of amazement as like the younger kid. Because the younger kid like she's just looking around like, oh, the jungle, oh, a brontosaurus, and on and on, and like that's her character purpose. But yeah, that's the family. There's other characters too. Like we have that guy from Avatar, the bad guy. He's in this, and he's basically playing the same character but a lot nicer, because he's basically he's the head of the military. He's the military guy. He's in charge of running the camp. He's the oldest like veteran there. You know, same guy, same character from Avatar. And it's another jungle movie. So and he even has like a speech. Like remember the speech he did in Avatar about I will. My job was to make sure you guys survive Pandora. I will not succeed. And that's pretty much what. He gave a similar speech in the start of this episode, actually. Well, not the beginning of near the beginning of the episode. And then there's other characters introduced, like we have the rebellious daughter of the commander character. We have the misfit friends of the misfit daughter. Who else? We have a love interest for the older daughter, who kind of reminds me of Jacob Black. And we have an outside group called the Sixers. And the Sixers were they were like if this was if you remember in Lost, I didn't really watch Lost, but I remember in Lost there was a group called the Others. The Sixers are basically the Others, but they know their origin kind of like in the story. There were 10 pilgrimages into the past, and I'm thinking this is Plan 9. They're doing the Plan 9 kind of thing where most of the pilgrimages were failures, but the 10th one is bound to succeed. And the Sixers were named because like it's a sixth pilgrimage, and they build up a mystery which will probably become the main focus later on. Like the Sixers, they attacked Terra Nova for some reason. They don't know who sent them back, sent them in there, but they don't like their intentions. So there's mystery as to why they attacked Terra Nova. And then there's a scene where they reveal like all these equations on like the rocks, and like they're like old, so like who made them? And I guess it was alien, but they kind of said it wasn't, so that was disappointing. I think that's all the characters I think I covered. There's minor characters I remember, but I think I covered all the major characters. So the actual show itself, I talked about it a lot already, but I didn't really review it. So the show is good. The show was good in terms of like I mean, the budget for this was amazing. I mean, this show looks good. It looks polished, clean. All right, like some parts you didn't believe, but what they're working with, the story they're working with, it's pretty darn good. And the actors were fine. I mean, there's some actors were a little bit stiff. Like, I didn't really like the son's acting. Like, it was kind of weird. But overall, the acting was pretty good. Um, I think in a technical point of view, the sorry, I think in a technical point of view, Terra Nova is pretty good. In terms of story, though, I think this is where a lot of reviewers criticized it because in terms of I'm sorry. In terms of story, it it was not very original. Like I mentioned, like a bunch of like other pieces of science fiction it may have like gotten influence from. Like even there's even one scene where it directly rips off Jurassic Park. Like you remember the scene in Jurassic Park where Alan Grant and two kids were in the giant tree and they had the huge branches, and so like the brontosaurus would come in. Oh, brachiosaurus? I think it was brachiosaurus. They came in and they ate the plant. There's a scene in Terra Nova where the little girl does it. Like she picks up a giant branch thing and a brachiosaurus comes down and like eats it. And it's not and Jurassic Park, it's the obvious one that people might make references to, but there's others like Pandorum, Lost in Space. The soldiers they got from Avatar. They even got the guy from Avatar. The let's see, the colony looks like the one from Time Machine. I was thinking of Time Machine when I saw this, and the idea of the Sixers, that's from Lost, and the Slashers, that's the Velociraptors from Jurassic Park. Well, they're not Velociraptors, but they're called the Slashers, so I don't know. Maybe they're a primitive form of Velociraptor. So yeah, I mean it's very derivative, but in terms of entertainment, like I mean that's a reason why we watch the show, to be entertained, right? It's an entertaining show, so like if you can excuse the derivative storytelling, uh, it's actually a good show because even in terms of story, I mean like it's still told very well, even though it's not very original. And the fact that they had a lot of huge budget for this, it looks very clean. So like for what it is, it was actually a good start to the show. I don't think the rest of the show is going to be, the rest of the season is going to be up to par in terms of technicality because this was I think they spent like a jillion bunches of money on this episode. So I think we're gonna see a little bit tone down in like special effects later on, but I think this is a good start actually to Terra Nova.